How can large companies stay out of trouble when it comes to corporate tax? Mark Gyorog joins us now for the second instalment. Okay, Mark, so we've looked at a bit of the whys, but we're going to look at the hows. You've mentioned that there are ways companies can make sure they're doing the right thing, but how would you say is the best way for companies to make sure that they're kind of towing the line when it comes to corporate tax?
Yeah, I think there are several things companies need to keep in mind. First of all, there are rules in this area, and they've been developed over literally decades. And governments have agreed the rules so that what ends up being in place today is an international framework. This is not something that companies just make up and they're free to do what they want. So an understanding of the rules, I think, is the first thing. The second thing is this is an area where the rules really do need to relate to the business of the company. And so the way to get this done properly is to have a strong technical foundation, but to also ground that foundation in an understanding of the business. The best way of a company can make sure it's paying the right amount of tax is to marry the rules together with how the business actually operates. And the third, I think, thing that companies need to do is to anticipate that they will have to explain their position in front of a tax inspector or potentially in front of the press, as we were saying earlier. And so they should think through very carefully what they would say to a tax inspector at a technical level or to a journalist that's interested in understanding the company's tax position. So it's not complicated, but it does need to be thought through very carefully, and there is an understanding of technical rules that has to be brought in.
Now, how do you also think that people or companies can avoid being that front page news story or being the object of, a major kind of press investigation, as it were?
I think the first thing is to be comfortable that the company's paying the right amount of tax in each country where it does business. And that goes back to this effective marrying the technical rules with the business of the company. The second thing I think that companies can do is anticipate that this is a legitimate question that society has a right to ask of multinational businesses and be prepared for that. I think the companies that have gotten in trouble and that may get in trouble in the future are those that either don't do the job properly or that don't anticipate that this is a question that could well be asked of them. So I think that a strong technical foundation and anticipation are the keys.
It is a much more open kind of environment which we live in just now. People expect transparency, and people actually go looking for, well, how, you said you made this profit, how has that happened? And they want to know the nitty-gritty of different companies.
That's right, sure, that's right. And that's a perfectly legitimate question. Taxpayers support the businesses and the countries and the societies in which they operate, and they should pay a fair amount of tax in order to do that. So I think it's a question that probably should have been, the focus of more transparency years ago, but it is now.
And how would you say people are performing in this area so far? Are there certain countries or different places which are doing better, do you think, or is it is there still a lot of room to grow, would you say?
It's an interesting time now in this area because the law, I think, is on the verge of potentially changing fairly radically. I'm not talking about next week or next month or even next year, but over the coming years, I think there has been, at least in part because of the publicity that's been brought into this area, a real potential for change and fundamental change in the area. So I think companies need to be aware that this isn't a time where they have to pay more attention, they have to anticipate, and again, they have to expect that they will have to be, they may be called to explain what they've done. I think it's an interesting time also because the countries that are in the developing part of the world have the opportunity of probably making advances and doing things in a better way than the more developed countries have done because they are able to learn and see where the mistakes have been made and where the opportunities are.
Well, that is a look at the house. Mark, thank you very much for just now, and I look forward to talking further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's all for this second part in a 3-part instalment with Mark. Please do keep on clicking back to Dukoscopy for the next instalment. Bye for now.